my partner engaged in an extramarital relationship with one of her former college students, prompting me to reach out to the student's wife. Together, we orchestrated a plan for retribution, proving that there's virtually nothing love can compel you to do. I am a 37-year-old man, married to Kate, a 35-year-old woman, and we've been together for 2 years. Kate holds a professorship at a city college, while my career is in marketing. Our paths first crossed at a mutual friend's party where we struck up a friendship. Over time, we connected on various social media platforms, but our interactions remained purely platonic for quite some time. During that period, Kate was involved with someone else, and I was navigating an on and off relationship of my own. The turning point came about 4 years ago on Kate's birthday. I sent her birthday wishes on Facebook, even though it was well past midnight. This simple gesture sparked a conversation that lasted throughout the night. The next day, we decided to meet for coffee. Kate didn't have any plans for her birthday, so I took the initiative to take her out for dinner and a lengthy drive. This marked the beginning of our deepening relationship, and fast forward 2 years, we decided to tie the knot. In fact, just last month, we celebrated our second anniversary, and everything seemed to be going smoothly in our married life. However, a few weeks ago, things took a drastic turn. A friend of mine mentioned that he had seen Kate with a man who appeared to be significantly younger, likely in his 20s. Initially, I dismissed it, thinking he might just be referring to a friend. But when I probed further, my friend hesitantly explained that their body language was not that of mere friends. They were sitting exceptionally close, with the man's hand resting on Kate's waist, and his lips almost touching her cheeks. My friend had lingered to determine if it was just a simple misunderstanding, but he ultimately witnessed them cuddling. When I inquired if he had captured any photos of them, he admitted that the encounter was so sudden that he didn't think to take pictures. Moreover, it was in a public place, and he was concerned about how others might react to him photographing a couple in such an intimate moment. Although I trusted my friend's account, the information was too vague to directly accuse Kate of infidelity. I couldn't label her a cheater based solely on what my friend had seen. Upon returning home that evening, I found Kate engrossed in a book. I wanted to ask her about her day and whether she had met up with any friends, but I struggled to find the right moment to bring it up without sounding accusatory. Our communication had always been somewhat reserved. We shared important details about our days but didn't discuss every little thing. To gently probe further, I started engaging Kate in small talk. I fabricated a story about running into a school friend during a client meeting and having lunch with him. Her reaction was rather lukewarm. She simply acknowledged it and returned to her book, mentioning that her day had been uneventful. This lack of enthusiasm seemed off to me. If that man was genuinely a friend or colleague, I would have expected her to share more about having lunch with him. It became clear that he was not a friend, which heightened my suspicions. From that point on, I became increasingly vigilant, observing Kate's behavior closely over the next few days. However, I didn't notice anything overtly suspicious. Nevertheless, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong, so I decided to take further action by examining her phone. One night, while she was asleep, I accessed her phone. Her inbox and social media accounts appeared clean, containing only typical messages from colleagues and students. I checked her call log but found nothing out of the ordinary. I continued scrolling through her call history, specifically looking for any calls on the day my friend had seen her with the young man. That's when I discovered a phone call made around the same time as the sighting. The contact was saved as Roomy 16, indicating that he was a student from the 2016 batch. Kate organized her student contacts by name and batch number for easy reference, so this detail was significant. I was perplexed. While it was plausible that she might be spending time with a friend, the fact that he was one of her students made the situation feel odd and inappropriate. I realized that I had only skimmed through her chats with colleagues and friends, overlooking the messages from her students. The thought of my wife being involved with a student was both unsettling and repulsive. To confirm my suspicions, I reopened her WhatsApp and searched for RS chat, where I found that she had been exchanging explicit messages with him for several months. The chat history dated back to 2016, containing farewell messages and well wishes. It appeared that 2 months prior, he had messaged her, informing her that he had returned to the city after relocating to Texas following his graduation. I didn't have the time to meticulously read each message individually, so I exported the entire chat to my email and subsequently deleted the history from her phone. My intention was to thoroughly review every interaction she had with her younger lover. That night, I spent hours poring over the conversation, which revealed that their relationship had become physical while he was still in college. Their affair began when Kate started teaching his class during his final year. Roomy noticed Kate's fondness for him and began to flirt subtly. Initially, Kate ignored his advances but eventually succumbed, admitting that she couldn't resist the desire to be with him physically. This led to their physical relationship. However, near the end of his college tenure, Rumi fell in love with another woman, the daughter of a wealthy businessman in Texas, and decided to move there with his girlfriend after graduation. This news deeply upset Kate, and to lift her spirits, Rumi made multiple efforts to comfort her during his last few months at the college. While reviewing the messages on Kate's phone, I had only reached the farewell wishes and hadn't scrolled further back. However, I'm grateful that I had exported the entire chat, as it provided a complete picture of their relationship. I'm certain that Kate wouldn't have willingly disclosed all these intimate details otherwise. Interestingly, during the time of their affair, Kate was also dating someone else, which indicated that she had a history of infidelity. Since Rumi moved out, Kate and Rumi had maintained minimal contact, exchanging only casual greetings on occasions like birthdays and Christmas a few months prior. 3 months ago, Rumi messaged Kate, informing her that he had returned to the city with his wife, the daughter of the affluent businessman from Texas, and was now managing his father's business in the city. Rumi initiated a conversation with Kate by expressing that he missed her physically and wanted to rekindle their intimate relationship. Initially, Kate resisted his advances, but eventually, she gave in, leading to them sleeping together a few more times. Based on the messages, it seemed they had been intimate 4 to 5 times by the time I finished reading them, which was already approaching dawn. I had to wake up early for work the next day, but by the time I returned home from the office, Kate was nowhere to be found. She usually returned by 5 p.m., often socializing with friends and colleagues after college, which never caused me concern. However, this time was different. I needed her home so we could address the situation directly. With all the evidence I had gathered, there was no need to prolong the confrontation. The revelation was overwhelming, and I wanted it to be resolved swiftly. As time passed, my restlessness grew. I called Kate, urging her to come home. She inquired if everything was all right, noting that I had never acted this way before. Within half an hour, she returned home. When she walked in, I was sitting on the front porch, detached from my phone or iPad, simply sitting there in silence. She immediately sensed the gravity of the situation and hurried over to me, demanding to know what was wrong. I apologized for disrupting her meeting with Rumi and mentioned his name. Kate shot me a cold look, questioning what I was insinuating. I stated that there was no longer any need for games or hiding, implying that I was accusing her of cheating. She denied my accusations, presenting me with the exported chat logs. Upon seeing them, she froze, standing silent for a moment before turning the accusation back on me, claiming that I had violated her privacy by snooping through her phone. She argued that while my actions were a breach of trust, her infidelity with another man's student was no crime. I retorted by asking if her previous breakup was also due to Rumi's actions. She angrily dismissed it as none of my business, but, after much persistence on my part, she admitted that her last boyfriend had also ended the relationship upon discovering her affair with her student. I couldn't help but laugh at her response, questioning how she could be so foolish as to ruin a relationship with a man who was stable and leading a peaceful life. She retaliated by claiming that he was highly addictive, comparing his blood to being filled with cocaine. I insisted that she needed to leave our home because it was mine, and she responded without remorse, insisting that it was merely a physical relationship devoid of emotional involvement. She begged me to reconsider my decision, suggesting that I was acting impulsively. Unmoved, I told her to leave. In anger, she stomped her foot, retreated inside, and began shouting that I would regret this decision and that she would return in 2 days, begging for reconciliation. Her delusional pleas for reconciliation were laughable to me. I had no intention of falling back into that cycle. As she packed her belongings, she didn't even glance at me, exiting the house immediately. I informed her that I would be sending divorce papers soon and that, if she maintained any sense of self-respect, she would sign them without contest. She remained silent as she left, acting as though it was my fault for invading her privacy and uncovering her infidelity. As she left, she exuded an ominous aura, making it clear that she wouldn't let the matter go easily. Had she been civil, I might have let it slide, but the tantrums she threw made me determined to damage her ego. I decided to search for Rumi on social media before he had a chance to block me. I found his wife's profile, which was private, and sent her a friend request. While waiting for her to accept, I also hired a lawyer. After 2 days with no response from Rumi's wife, I didn't wait any longer. I sent her excerpts of the explicit chats between Rumi and Kate. Within an hour, she responded, inquiring about my well-being and requesting more details. I identified myself as Kate's husband and explained that Rumi had been sleeping with her. I also shared portions of their conversation where Rumi discussed her and his wealthy father's business dealings. She asked if I could send the entire conversation, and although I wanted to meet her in person to reveal everything, I refrained, fearing it would come across as creepy. I requested her email address and forwarded the exported chats to her. She then asked how I had uncovered the truth, to which I provided a detailed account of everything. I advised her to read the messages carefully to gain full clarity. A few hours later, she responded, asking if I had confronted Kate. I affirmed that I had, and she mentioned that she would involve her father to handle Rumi. Shortly after, she went offline, and 3 days have passed since then, leaving me worried about her safety. It seemed that Rumi was exploiting her for her father's money, and I feared he might have harmed her upon discovering the truth. Despite my attempts to reach out through various social media platforms and emails, I haven't been successful. Meanwhile, my lawyer is diligently preparing the divorce papers, and I will provide updates as the situation develops. Update 1 I appreciate the affirmations. Initially, I doubted whether I was acting impulsively, but I followed through nonetheless. I felt a surge of positivity when everyone supported me on my post, congratulating me on making a brave decision. Thank you all. Now, for some updates. Earlier, I mentioned that Rumi's wife had disappeared for a week. When I finally received a response, I wasn't entirely relieved but remained suspicious about whether it was genuinely her or Rumi contacting me from her phone. I requested a phone call, and she saw my messages expressing concern for her safety. She immediately called me, and I felt a wave of relief. She explained that after reading the messages, she took the first flight to Texas, as she was alone in the city and didn't want to handle Rumi on her own, given his shady behavior evident from the chats. She involved her parents and turned off her phone for a week on her lawyer's advice because Rumi was attempting to contact her through every possible means. Her parents were worried that Rumi might try to manipulate her with false reasons, but she assured them that she wasn't naive enough to fall for his tactics, although she still followed her lawyer's advice. Do you know how a wife handled Rumi? It was classic. They didn't confront him directly about the cheating. Instead, they identified accounting irregularities within the office managed by Rumi and instructed him to stay away from his wife until the issues were resolved. Rumi couldn't trace the sudden suspicions back to his in-laws. His father believed that a cheating lawsuit wouldn't severely impact Rumi because the court doesn't penalize infidelity. At most, Rumi might have to pay alimony for the emotional distress caused to his wife. However, his father had no need for that. He aimed to completely ruin Rumi's reputation. A few days after this, Rumi reached out to me with the exact words, "Dude, your wife is completely delusional. She's fabricating stories and insisting that I marry her. Doesn't she realize I'm 10 years younger than her?" He acknowledged that they had slept together but insisted that he couldn't marry every woman he had affairs with. What transpired was when Rumi informed Kate about the issues with her in-laws, Kate falsely claimed that I had leaked the chats to his wife. Rumi, however, clarified that no one had mentioned the affair. Instead, they were concerned about the accounting problems within the company. Rumi mistakenly thought that Kate was trying to use the situation to persuade him into marriage. I found his messages laughable, realizing that he was as delusional as Kate. He genuinely believed that his in-laws were upset solely because of the accounting discrepancies and had no idea about his infidelity. At least a month after the crucial day, the divorce papers were ready. I contacted Kate's mother to inquire if Kate was staying with her. She was taken aback by my question, as Kate wasn't residing with her. She asked if everything was all right, and I told her the truth. However, Kate's mother didn't believe me and wanted me to provide evidence. By then, I was too exhausted from trying to convince everyone of the truth that I didn't care if Kate's mother chose to leave me alone. I informed her that I was sending the divorce papers to Kate's house and advised her to have her daughter sign them. Within an hour, my phone was flooded with abusive voicemails from Kate, accusing me of destroying her and Rumi's lives. I chose not to block her because I wanted to see her true colors and understand how far she would go to abuse me. My relationship with her might have been shorter compared to some of you who have shared stories about cheating spouses, but I had been with Kate for 4 long years, married to her, making the separation incredibly painful. Once she stopped abusing me, I blocked her. It's been a week since, but she still hasn't signed the divorce papers. I also checked with Rumi's wife to see if her divorce proceedings had begun, but that woman is currently vacationing in Las Vegas to cope with her depression while her father handles Rumi's situation. Wealthy individuals have their own methods of dealing with such issues, and I plan to update once everything is resolved. Right now, I just want to distance myself from Kate's thoughts as much as possible and move forward with my life. Update 2 My divorce is finally finalized. Yes, thank you. One common comment from my last update suggested that I might be dating Rumi's ex-wife because of how I showed concern for her. To all the men out there, I'm not interested in getting involved in that mess. Besides, she isn't my type. I can't imagine or afford the lavish trips after all the misery I've endured, and I have no intention of relying on her father's wealth, especially after witnessing how they handled Rumi's situation. Rumi's father accused him of embezzling company funds and successfully proved it in court. I'm unsure whether Rumi actually siphoned money from his father's company or if he was merely framed. Rumi's wife wasn't privy to the details of how her father substantiated these accusations. She's a wealthy woman who likely doesn't know the value of everyday things like vegetables. They used his fraud allegations as a basis to separate him from his wife. Rumi's father demanded a hefty sum, giving Rumi 3 months to pay it. If he failed, Rumi would face criminal charges. The amount was enormous, and she was confident that Rumi couldn't afford to pay it, which would ultimately land him in jail. Moreover, the scandal had already caused significant damage to his reputation, which mere infidelity wouldn't have achieved. Rumi's father is indeed a formidable man. Regarding my situation, Kate employed numerous tactics before finalizing the divorce papers. She aimed to claim my house as alimony, despite previously advocating for feminism. When it came time to uphold her morals, she stooped so low as to try and swindle me out of my property. I don't know if she genuinely believed this was a feminist stance, but according to her, she was the one who cheated on me and thus deserved compensation. What kind of logic is that? Thankfully, I had a competent lawyer who fought diligently to secure my house and protect it from her grasp. I'm also grateful that I had the evidence of her infidelity. I've read countless stories of victims who were not only cheated on but also had their property seized, including houses. I desired a clean divorce, but Kate complicated things, so I decided to play along with her tactics. She told her colleagues that she was divorcing me because I was unfaithful, thereby justifying her demand for the house as alimony and garnering sympathy from her friends and colleagues. To counter this, I did what I should have done much earlier. I sent explicit chats between Kate and Rumi to a few of her colleagues. People at the workplace are often eager for gossip, and these chats quickly circulated among the faculty, making Kate the subject of office gossip. Kate called me from a landline, hurling insults and blaming me for leaking her chats. This time, I stood my ground. I told her to sign the divorce papers or else I would leak the chats to her friends and her college students, potentially making it a viral scandal in the city. My voice was cold and stern, and she knew I meant business. I never thought I would stoop to such tactics, but she left me no choice. However, I didn't share the chats with her mother when she doubted my claims because I never intended to humiliate her in such a manner. Ultimately, Kate agreed to my divorce terms and signed the papers in the subsequent court hearing. Finally, I'm divorced and free from her entanglements. My friends are urging me to start dating again, but I prefer to wait a while before jumping into a new relationship. Additionally, I haven't been in contact with Rumi's wife since her last update on the court case, nor am I interested in knowing what becomes of him. I had only communicated with her up until my divorce, but now that it's settled, I want no ties to my past or present life. I simply wish to move forward. Inspired by the resilience of Rumi's ex-wife, I'm also planning a solo trip, not to Las Vegas, but to Montana. I hope to return rejuvenated and strong after trekking through the mountains. Thank you all for listening and supporting me. Now, on to the next story. Story 2 I engaged in a sexual relationship with my wife's affair partner's wife and am now in the process of divorcing her. We were married for almost 3 years when she began having an affair with her coworker about a year ago. I discovered this because I noticed his car outside our house one day, which raised my suspicions. Acting on them, I hired a private investigator to gather evidence of her infidelity with him. Naturally, I was furious upon uncovering the truth. Then, I received a call from the coworker's wife, who had learned about the affair. She had only received text messages between them, but I had all the proof of their secret meetings. We decided to confront both of them. The affair was extensive, with frequent encounters. One day, we came up with the idea to sleep with each other as a form of revenge. I won't lie, it felt satisfying. We continued meeting and being intimate for some time. She is an incredible woman. In fact, she's better than my wife in certain aspects in bed. I'm particularly angry with my wife because, in some of her text messages with her affair partner, both of them mocked his wife, making derogatory comments about her weight and even crudely discussing her genitalia. I find it hard to believe that she would say such things as a woman. Additionally, she ridiculed my fertility issues, suggesting that I wasn't a man because my chances of having children were slim. I don't regret my affair. In fact, I prefer the sexual relationship I had with the affair partner's wife over my marriage. She rarely engaged in oral sex but expected me to perform it frequently, whereas the affair partner's wife was much more enthusiastic, providing some of the best oral experiences I've ever had. The affair partner's wife has expressed a desire to inform her husband about our encounter. It seems we both became addicted to the revenge affair, driven by the desire to retaliate. Eventually, we decided to end it, and I plan to confront my wife soon. I already have the divorce papers prepared, as we don't share a joint account or have marital assets, making the process straightforward. The affair partner's wife might face some challenges because they have children, but she has the resources to handle them. I acknowledge that I may come across as an awful person, but I've already emotionally checked out of my marriage. Update 1 ***. I completely forgot about this Reddit account, but I do have an update. As many of your requests suggested, I proceeded with serving the divorce papers on July 16th. I had delayed it initially because I needed to sort out a few things, but eventually, I served her divorce papers at her workplace. When she returned home, I packed up her belongings and instructed her to stay with her father. She reacted as typical cheaters do. She begged, apologized, and blamed me for her affair. I was prepared for her stubbornness. She refused to leave and insisted on fixing our marriage. I reminded her that the house belonged to my parents and was in their name. If she didn't leave, I could call my parents to have her evicted. I had also contacted her sister, hoping she would intervene, but her sister turned the blame on me, accusing me of being a bad husband for abandoning the marriage so easily. At that point, I became somewhat petty, pointing out how hypocritical it was coming from a woman who had left her own husband for his cousin. It seemed the apple didn't fall far from the tree, and she responded by slapping me. I warned her that this was her last chance and that I would involve the police if she assaulted me again. After she left, the messages from her didn't stop. I chose not to block her because I wanted to capture some screenshots of the ongoing harassment. She continued to apologize, begging me to take her back, but she mocked me by claiming she never enjoyed our lovemaking and that she and her affair partner had been intimate on every piece of furniture in our house. I'm not certain how much of it was true, but I plan to replace the furniture regardless. She even suggested that she had defiled her car by being intimate in it, but I didn't act on that. The last time we spoke, she offered a sincere apology, explaining that she had been carried away. Lately, she had been thinking about having children. As I mentioned before, I cannot have children, and while she had expressed a desire to remain child-free, as she reached her mid-30s, she became increasingly desperate to become a mother. This desire, combined with my infertility, angered her and led her to cheat as a coping mechanism. She admitted she was wrong and claimed that I was the best partner and husband anyone could have, but she simply wanted more. I asked her why she hadn't communicated her desires so we could explore options like adoption or using a sperm bank. She murmured that she was pregnant, but I knew it wasn't my child. Any hope for reconciliation was now non-existent. I could only imagine that if I hadn't discovered her affair, she might have carried the pregnancy to term as a miracle baby. Instead, I congratulated her and emphasized my desire for an immediate divorce. As for the affair partner's wife, she also filed for divorce against her husband, taking him to court. She hasn't backed down and has been vocal about feeling that she wasted her best years and youth on a disgusting man. I believe she still looks attractive. We hadn't been in contact for a while until one drunken night when she sent me a sleazy picture via text, urging me to come over, but I declined. She did apologize after that incident, and we are not planning to date anytime soon unless all divorce proceedings are concluded. Despite everything, I do miss her a lot. Additionally, I adopted a cat, which my soon-to-be ex-wife hated, so my house is now transforming into a feline kingdom.